Here is our Battlefield tier list. About circa 2007, 2008, Battlefield Bad Company 2 drops, right? This right here, for a lot of people in the Battlefield franchise, was like, you know, like a heavy hitter. This was kind of like a big jump into the modern day of Battlefield. Granted, I think Battlefield Bad Company 2 kind of kicked off the second era of Battlefields, if you will. This was a big step. Big step. And gosh, I'm not gonna lie. The first time I ever witnessed Battlefield Bad Company 2, I had a very distinct vision, or memory rather, of this game. I remember going over to my cousin's house, unaware to what the Battlefield franchise was at the time. And I step in there. He's got a sniper in classic fashion. My cousin was always sniping in every single game. You ask him about it, he's always got a sniper in his hand. So much so that he's one of those annoying bastards that calls anything but snipers reg guns, okay? As in regular guns. The guy was a piece of shit. All right, Tony, if you're listening to this, fuck you, dude. With love, of course. So, Battlefield Bad Company 2, he's running around with a sniper, and he's throwing a C4 onto an enemy sniper's adjacent, like, two-story house. And without any knowledge of what this game is, I'm blown away when two C4 charges that he tosses over from his building seemingly level the entirety of the building that this other sniper was sitting on. Kill confirmed pops up on his screen, plus 100 points, and he's free to snipe to his glory for the rest of the match, right, man? Destruction was not on my radar up until Bad Company 2. And at that point, at the same time, I did not realize just how much more it was going to be expanded upon in future iterations of Battlefield. All right. So for that very reason, I think it goes without saying, Battlefield Bad Company 2, A tier. And you're probably wondering to yourself at this moment in time, Max, or you're saying, Max, you literally just said that this game, like this game was, you know, the most incredible thing. Like, how could it possibly be A tier if you don't even have a single bad thing to say about this game? Like all that it brought in, all that it revolutionized and innovated within the FPS space, how could it possibly be an A tier? And my answer to that is Battlefield 3. Right off the rip, it's going to go without saying, Battlefield 3 is an S tier title, not even just across Battlefield, but across all of video games, dude. All of video games. Battlefield 3 to me is my personal favorite title across Battlefield. It is probably in the top 5, maybe top 3 of my favorite video games of all time. This title was revolutionary for me in terms of my love for video games. I remember being on Operation Firestorm, sniping people that were, you know, camping off the top of the very mountain. You were talking like 300-meter headshot score bonuses. We're talking about running around in the attack helicopters, having the dual, the partnership between a pilot and a gunner. That was something I never got to bear witness to in a game prior. And the very first moment that I got to jump into an attack heli with my buddy and we got to fly around our 24-player map or 24-player match in our Xbox 360 Battlefield 3 matches, we devastated. And the level of dopamine that surged through my veins was unmatched. And granted, you guys know I'm an infantry player. I don't touch the tanks. I don't really touch the helicopters anymore either. This game has amazing infantry gameplay. Whether it all really does go back to the locked classes. And this is a hot topic coming up for the new Battlefield 6 game, right? A lot of people want locked classes back. The idea of being able to run around with your medic assault classes and then have your engineers running around with, you know, similar weaponry, the more carbine locked weapons, the LMG support classes, and the sniper-based recon classes. Bro, like the formatting to the structure and the formatting to the way Battlefield 3 was set up on all levels was just peak. And the maps in this game, there's so many maps. Like, dare I say, this is the game with the best Battlefield maps and some of the best FPS maps I've ever gotten to play. All right, whether or not you want to talk about canals, you want to talk about Metro, you want to talk about Davaman Peak. Do you guys remember the people who, all right, Matrix, you're blowing up my spot right now, dude. Can you guys remember jumping off Davaman
Max,
Peak?
at your age, you should be considering
day,
supplements to expand your rapidly ending lifetime. Take vitamin pills now. You are old as fuck. Consider writing your will. Fuckhead.
That was an attack on my character, dude. We're talking about Battlefield games right now, brother. What is that, dude? Caspian Border, take it or leave it. Caspian Border was incredible as well. But back to my point. Do you guys remember playing Rush on Davaman Peak back in the day? And you captured, I believe it was the second set of objectives on the very, like, you know, top of the mountain. And then all of a sudden the game says that you need to go thousands of meters below your current position. You jump off that peak, and then next thing you know, everybody under you is pulling chutes. The scout heli that exists right on the helipad, right at the very top of the peak, it's just absolutely nosediving down. Crazy, crazy shit, dude. Overall user experience that Battlefield 3 offered is unmatched, and there was something that went into this game beyond just good core, you know, FPS integrations and understandings. There was love baked into this game, dude. Incredible, incredible times in my fucking youth, and I stand on that till the day I die. Battlefield 3, GOAT Battlefield. Can't tell me I'm wrong. All right, moving on. Battlefield 4. We are jumping ahead one spot in the Battlefield series to Battlefield 4. This game was the most anticipated Battlefield title ever at the time. I know that doesn't sound the most insightful, but like the leap in excitement for between titles in comparison to the leap between Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 was insane. Insane, dude. And part of that went into the incredible cinematics and promotion that they put into the marketing for Battlefield 4. There was a big eye catcher that came in with Battlefield 4. And some of you guys already know the answer to that catch. It was Levolution, dude. It was Levolution. Battlefield 4, Battlefield, they released cinematics and gameplay trailers, particularly kind of targeting the Siege of Shanghai map that exists in Battlefield 4. And players are astounded to the idea that you could topple the skyscraper in the center of the map. Now, we will go on to find out that there are issues in that particular map in terms of just overall gameplay experience, because gosh, people were breaking that skyscraper down instant at the start of every single game. I was livid. Especially, I go into a fucking, you know, max ticket lobby in Battlefield 4 Siege of Shanghai, and they dropped my skyscraper off rip. I'm backing out. I'm leaving. I'm finding a new server. All right, all those people in that server, they were no fun people. Dare I say, they had no fun. Back to the core idea here. Battlefield 4 brings in the Levolution concept. You're seeing destruction on mass scales. It's blowing everybody away, man. Just in the same way that I was blown away from seeing a small little hut of a building in Battlefield 2 get destroyed by a couple C4s, we're seeing absolutely massive integral parts of the maps get demolished in Battlefield 4. The maps were pretty solid, with the exception of a few. The gunplay, dare I say, was certainly a upgrade from Battlefield 3. I think that was probably one of the biggest improvements between the two in terms of like a core experience. And then the overall vehicle experience, I would say, got an upgrade as well. Certainly a bit more than a facelift. It was a great time to be playing Battlefield, because at this moment in time, they were still thriving off of Battlefield 3's success. If Battlefield 3 did not run, Battlefield 4 would have never sprinted, right? Because Battlefield 3, dare I say, if Bad Company 2 did as well as Battlefield 3, then Battlefield 3 would have been seen in the same way that we see Battlefield 4 today, in terms of that great leap and that great jump to the mainstream popularity that we saw with Battlefield 4. Battlefield 4, undeniably, this is an S tier game. This is an S tier game. For me, it still doesn't stand to the rankings, the feelings of Battlefield 3, but it was so important to the development of the franchise and so important to the overall development of modern FPSs that it deserves its flowers, dude. It deserves its flowers. And gosh, this was one of the last times that we really got the last great set of Battlefield DLC as well. Moving on, Battlefield Hardline. Now, this kind of drew everybody back originally when Battlefield Hardline was released. Coming off of these 3 games going on legendary runs, dude. Legendary runs. Battlefield Hardline comes in and they say, we're making Battlefield Cops and Robbers. Now, personally, dude, personally, I truly think that Battlefield Hardline wasn't a bad game. I truly think it wasn't a bad game. But at that same time, Battlefield Hardline was not Battlefield to me, man. It had the Battlefield framework. It had the Battlefield kind of like UI, all that kind of stuff. It was a Battlefield game, but it wasn't a game meant for Battlefield. Understand where I'm coming from on this? Hardline was cool. They had a lot of really cool maps. The gameplay features, they brought in like grappling hooks and a bunch of other cool gadgets, which at the time of playing Battlefield 4, things like grappling hooks and zip lines and stuff like that I could self-deploy and make my like own usage out of was like an incredible idea. I had the same euphoric feeling hearing about zip lines and grappling hooks in Battlefield Hardline that I did when I saw Levolution come in Battlefield 4. Don't ask me why. I think I was just really off of like a stealth game kind of, Splinter Cell sort of kick back in the day where I was like, if I could make it usage of like, I would dream up these scenarios in my head thinking about what Battlefield Hardline could be, right? Getting further into Battlefield Hardline, we get into the open beta. There's like this like city-based map. They introduce us to like the cash grab game mode where everybody's driving around police cars and criminal like vehicles and whatnot. And they integrate that kind of classic cops and robbers FPS game mode that exists in a lot of lower budget titles nowadays. The game ends up becoming pretty solid, but the whole community is still kind of pissed off. And honestly, for good reason. These games rode the modern warfare wave so well, and they did so incredible. A lot of people were just expecting a slightly future iteration of these titles in the following title in place of Battlefield Hardline, right? And with that, everybody was greatly bummed when we took this step back and we decided to go into this era of cops and robbers and not like building off of Battlefield 4. And I don't even think that there was like Battlefield Hardline really had much of a Levolution aspect to it too, right? Like I think it took a great step back in terms of Levolution and overall destruction. It just seemed like it was kind of like pivoting from what Battlefield was and what people were excited for Battlefield to be. And then Battlefield, DICE, they completely sideswipe us with this complete change in how we all view Battlefield. So overall, I think this game is fun. I do think it didn't deserve to necessarily be just absolutely dragged in the dirt the way it did. But I think because it holds that Battlefield title, if this game wasn't a Battlefield title and it was its own thing that existed outside and we still got to, have a Battlefield game in place or another Battlefield game in place of this Hardline, I think it would have been much, much better. I think could have been much, much better. I'm going to put Hardline C. Moving on. Battlefield 1. Now, if I'm going to be completely real with you guys, Battlefield Hardline was definitely not a step in the right direction in terms of my love for the Battlefield franchise, but Battlefield 1 didn't do too much better. Granted, they went back to a state of war that was not cops and robbers, right? This was actual battlefields, actual history, right? Like things that, occurred, and you're using weapons that were fought on the real front lines of wars that were fought. But Battlefield 1 to me was not a real big step forward in terms of what I wanted Battlefield gameplay to be like. I got so absorbed into this era of modern warfare that we got to thrive in with Battlefield Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 4, that Battlefield jumping back into the World War I era was not what I wanted, dude. Not what I wanted. But I cannot deny that it was a good game on a fundamental scale. It was a good game. But to me, it just did not execute in my wish list what I wanted out of a Battlefield game. And it seems like a lot of people carried the same kind of views. I think a lot of people will agree in the fact that saying that Battlefield 1 is a great game, but at the end of the day, we all still hang on to and miss this right here. These three right here, that core era. So for that reason, I'm going to put Battlefield 1 in at the B tier. Battlefield 1 sits at the B tier. None of the guns felt enjoyable to use. There were certainly ones that were better than others, but like in terms of like head-to-head experiences with like, rifles and whatnot, like none of it felt fun. I felt like I was using like little, like, I don't know, thrown together, jerry-rigged pieces of trash compared to other FPS games out there. And that for me made the overall gunplay experience not so fun. Not so fun. What I will say Battlefield 1 did have going for it was good maps and amazing sniping. There's a strong argument to be made that Battlefield 1 has the best sniper experience in the entirety of the franchise. And I do give it to that. There's a reason why everybody is running around on these maps with snipers, and it's because they're just, without a doubt, the most fun thing to do in this game. So Battlefield 1 B tier, I'm holding that spot heavily. Battlefield 5. Boys, I tell you what, they need to start spreading these games out a little bit more because, brother, Battlefield 5 to me was just like, they doubled down on what I didn't want. All right. They did double down on what I didn't want. Battlefield 1 did things okay, but not going to lie, it killed my interest for the Battlefield franchise. Battlefield 5 comes around. I'm like, are you serious? I give it a whirl. And dude, D tier. All right. Battlefield 5 is a D tier game. I like Hardline I could deal with. Battlefield 5, this set me apart from the Battlefield franchise in terms of my overall love and excitement for the games that they were going to continue to bring out. Okay, dude. World War II era, the guns and stuff were better. Everything like that was like, you know, kind of like on a fundamental level better just because of the time and era. But like, dude, I didn't play much of it at all past launch because they just did not execute on what I wanted for Battlefield. Wrong, incorrect. You guys are incorrect. Okay, dude. I don't care what you say. Battlefield 5 was not it for me. Did not like right from launch. You got to do a pretty bad job for me to not want to play your game at all after launch. Battlefield 5 was awful at launch. All right. And we're just going to move right into the real heavy hitter, the elephant in the room, dude. Battlefield 2042, F tier, dude. F tier. We are sitting in the period of uncertainty and a period of desperate desire and fainting hope because of Battlefield 2042, dude. I've told this story multiple times. I'll tell it again. When Battlefield 2042 was announced, we got that amazing cinematic. We got Ron DeZook, that whole thing. This was arguably a marketing masterclass coming around when Battlefield 2042 was spawning out of the depths of game development, right? And everybody was excited. There was a few things that were, you know, kind of like finicky in the sense of like, you know, okay, they're bringing in like heroes and stuff like that with like expanded gadgets and whatnot. We were kind of hesitant on that. And then they come in and they drop the beta, dude. They dropped the beta and me and a couple buddies were all excited. I pre-ordered it. I did the Ultimate Edition. It was like $120. I didn't care at the moment. I wanted to play Battlefield in a semi-modern era, okay? And what do? They absolutely fuck it up, dude. No scoreboard. The worst servers I've ever imagined, dude. All the guns were all fucked up. They throw us onto that rocket launch map or whatever with the singular skyscraper and like a couple facilities on either side and then the rocket launching. Battlefield 2042 was a absolute mess in its beta, dude. And it continued to be an absolute mess in its launch. And it took only about 1.5, 2 years for like us to feel like we actually had a game. Not even a Battlefield game, but just a game, dude. Yeah, the hit reg was awful. Everything, I throw the hit reg in with the servers and like the tick rate and everything like that, man. Overall, Battlefield 2042 was the worst experience that I've ever had jumping into a AAA title ever. And it was only within 3 hours of playing that beta that I knew it wasn't going to get better. I refunded my purchase. And God, I'm glad I did. Plus 120 back because that game was a mess. It took that long for them to actually throw in a scoreboard. And I only think that Battlefield 2042 really became a decent game up until recent. And that's just talking about gunplay and like the kind of fluidity of the game. The maps were trash. Portal was underserved. Everything in this game was just an absolute mess. And I'm not even really, I like to give benefit of the doubt. I really do. I like to give benefit of the doubt. I like to give a glass half full when it comes to certain things. Battlefield 2042 really just doesn't deserve any of that. The damage was done, man. The damage was done. By the time that 2042, like, there was no hope for it and it kind of dragged out its own death, people were just looking forward to the possibility that maybe Battlefield would come back in the next title. And now here we stand in this moment of desperation, praying that Battlefield 6 redeems Battlefield as a franchise, dude. So that's where we find ourselves in modern history. That is the tier list, ladies and gentlemen. Dare I say a 100% accurate tier list. What do you guys think? True? Real? True? All right. Appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with me. This has been our Battlefield tier list, obviously starting from Bad Company 2. It's been fun so far, though. I've really been enjoying doing these tier lists. So thank you guys for coming in and hanging out. Much love.